Taewon floated in the darkness of space, carrying the weapon toward the Void's core. Behind him, his ship launched the escape pod. Ji-won, Hana, and Taimin fled in one direction while the Void ships pursued them. It gave Daewon the seconds he needed. The core's surface was unlike anything human. It wasn't metal or rock. It pulsed like living tissue, covered in strange patterns that hurt to look at. Daewon found an opening, something like a port or connection point. He attached the weapon and activated it. Nothing happened at first. Then Daewon felt something. A presence. The Void became aware of him. He felt its attention focus, and the weight of it nearly crushed his mind. This was the intelligence that had killed hundreds of civilizations. Ancient, patient, efficient. The weapon needed time to work. 30 seconds to fully integrate with the Void's network. Daewon had to keep it connected. He held it in place as the Void's attention pressed harder. Images flooded his mind. All the species the Void had consumed, all the worlds it had stripped clean. Thousands of years of death. But Daewon pushed back with his own images. Earth, humanity fighting through ice ages, surviving plagues, enduring wars. Humanity had faced extinction 100 times and refused to die. Every time the universe tried to kill humans, they adapted. They survived. They grew stronger. The Void didn't understand. It calculated. It predicted. It expected surrender when defeat was certain. But humanity never thought defeat was certain. Humanity fought impossible odds because humans were too stubborn to know when to quit. 20 seconds. The weapon was integrating deeper. Daewon felt the Void trying to reject it. But the quantum disruption was already spreading. Like a virus in a computer. Like poison in blood. The Void showed him the future. Humanity would lose. The math was clear. The Void had superior numbers. Superior technology. Superior everything. Humanity's resistance was futile. Daewon laughed. He actually laughed. We don't care about the math. We never have. 10 seconds. The core was shaking now. The Void was trying to disconnect from the weapon, but it was too late. The quantum disruption was in every part of the network. Daewon felt his air running out. His suit was damaged from the core's defenses. He was dying. But it didn't matter. The weapon was armed. The timer was counting down. We cried out to the cosmos, Daewon whispered. We begged not to be alone. But no one answered. So we learned to answer ourselves. Earth raised us to be survivors, and we survived. 5 seconds. 4. 3. Daewon thought of his home. Earth. Blue and green and beautiful. He thought of all the humans living there. Fighting there. Hoping there. He had spent 30 years searching for aliens in space. But the only thing worth finding was back home. Humanity itself. 2-1, the weapon detonated. Not with fire or force. With pure quantum disruption. It tore through the Void's network like lightning. The hive mind that had been one became a million fragments. Each piece suddenly alone, confused, disconnected from the whole. In the Helios Nebula, Admiral Hyunwoo saw it happen. The Void ship stopped moving in perfect coordination. They began acting independently, making mistakes, getting in each other's way. The human fleet, battered and bleeding, suddenly found openings. Found weaknesses. All ships pressed the attack, Hyunwoo ordered. They're breaking. Hit them now. The tide of battle turned. Human ships that had been dying started winning. Void vessels that had seemed invincible began falling. The efficiency that had made the Void unstoppable was gone. Now they were just ships, just enemies that could be fought and beaten. On Mars, General Yujin watched her screens as the Void fleet in orbit above suddenly scattered. No coordination, no plan, just individual ships acting on their own. Launch all fighters, she ordered. Take them down. Human fighters poured from underground hangars. They attacked the confused Void ships, without the hive mind to guide them. The Void vessels were helpless. One by one, they fell. On the occupied worlds, the resistance fighters saw the Void forces collapse. Sung-ho and his group emerged from hiding and attacked the Void facilities. Without central coordination, the Void couldn't respond effectively. The occupying forces were scattered, defeated, driven off. In space, Ji-won's escape pod limped toward the nearest human outpost. She watched through the pod's sensors as the Void's core exploded silently. Daewon was gone, but his sacrifice had worked. He did it, Hana whispered, tears streaming down her face. He actually did it. Of course he did, Taemin said quietly. He was human. The battle lasted another 6 hours, but it wasn't really a battle anymore. It was a hunt. The void ships, fragmented and alone, tried to flee. Human forces chased them down. Every ship, every piece. They would not let the void regroup, would not let it become whole again. When it was over, Admiral Hyunwoo sat in his command chair and wept. Not from sadness, from relief, from exhaustion, from the knowledge that humanity had survived. The cost had been terrible. Millions dead, 12 colonies lost, but humanity had survived. The next weeks were about recovery, finding survivors, rebuilding, counting the dead. Captain Daewon's name went on a memorial with millions of others, heroes who had given everything. General Yu Jin oversaw the liberation of occupied worlds. The void fragments that remained were hunted down systematically. Without the hive mind, they were no longer a threat, just remnants to be cleaned up. Professor Sang-ho studied the captured void technology. Now that the hive mind was shattered, humans could examine it safely. What they learned would advance human science by centuries. 5 years passed. Humanity rebuilt. The lost colonies were resettled. New ships were built. The scars slowly healed, but something had changed in humanity. They had faced the thing that killed hundreds of civilizations and won. They had proven that humanity could stand alone, could fight impossible odds, could survive when survival seemed impossible. Admiral Hyunwoo, now old and ready to retire, stood before the United Council. They had given him a new mission, not defense, exploration. The alien records show hundreds of dead civilizations, he said, but the void didn't kill them all at once. Some might have survivors, some might be hiding, afraid to use advanced technology, afraid to be noticed. What are you proposing? Counselor Yoonji asked. She was older too now, gray hair and tired eyes, but still sharp. A message, Hyunwoo said. Broadcast across the galaxy, in every mathematical language we know, telling the story of what happened here, telling any survivors that they're not alone anymore, that humanity stands ready to help. That could be dangerous, someone warned. What if there are other threats out there? Then we'll face them, Hyunwoo said simply. Like we faced the void, we're not hiding anymore. We're not afraid anymore. Earth taught us to answer our own cries for help. Now we'll answer others. The vote was unanimous. The message was crafted carefully. It told the truth. Humanity had cried out to the cosmos for centuries. No one had answered. So humanity learned to stand alone, learned to fight, learned to survive. But now, if anyone was out there hiding and afraid, they should know. Earth answers. Humanity answers. You are not alone. The message was broadcast from every human colony, every ship, every station. It went out in all directions, traveling at the speed of light. A message of hope into the darkness. For months, there was no response. Some said there never would be. The galaxy was dead. Humanity was alone. But then, 15 months after the message went out, something came back. A signal from a distant star system, weak, hesitant, but definitely artificial. It was in mathematical language. Just 2 simple concepts translated to human terms. Thank you. The signal came from a star 800 light-years away, which meant the signal had been sent long before humanity's message. Some other species had been crying out to the cosmos, hoping for help, for contact, for anything. And now humanity was answering. Not because humans were strong, not because humans were advanced, but because humans understood what it meant to cry out to an empty universe and hear nothing back. Ji-won, now a captain herself, volunteered to lead the expedition. She commanded a new ship, built with technology learned from both the alien records and captured void equipment. The ship was named the Daewon, in honor of the captain who had saved them all. As the Daewon prepared to depart on humanity's first mission to contact another surviving species, Ji-won stood on the bridge and looked at Earth through the view screen. Home. The world that had raised humanity to be survivors. We cried out to the cosmos, she said quietly, but only Earth responded. Earth made us strong enough to stand alone, and now that we can stand alone, we can help others stand too. The Daewon jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading toward the distant signal. Behind it, humanity continued to rebuild, continued to grow, continued to be stubborn, aggressive survivors who refused to quit. The galaxy had been silent for so long. So many civilizations had died alone, crying out for help that never came. But that was changing now, because humanity had learned something important. If the cosmos won't answer, you answer yourself. You become strong. You survive. And then when others cry out in the darkness, you answer them. Earth had responded to humanity's cries. Now humanity would respond to the galaxy's cries. The silence was ending, and it was humanity, stubborn and mean and absolutely refusing to quit, that was breaking it. In a universe that seemed designed to kill intelligent life. The first battle happened at Colony Proxima 7, a mining world with 2 million people. Captain Day One was there with a small scout fleet, watching the sensors with growing dread. The Void had arrived in force this time, not just probing, attacking. How many? He asked. Hundreds of contacts, his sensor officer reported. Her voice shook. Maybe thousands. They're not reading as normal ships. They're more like pieces of a larger organism. Day One watched the view screen. The Void ships, if you could call them that, moved in perfect coordination. They flowed through space like a dark liquid, changing formation instantly, moving as one mind. Human ships looked clumsy and slow by comparison. All ships, battle formation Delta. Admiral Hyun-woo's voice came through the command channel. He was commanding from the flagship 5,000 kilometers away. Fire when in range. The human fleet opened fire. Missiles streaked across space. Energy weapons lit up the darkness. For a moment, Day One felt hope. The weapons were hitting. The Void ships were taking damage. Then the damaged ships simply merged with undamaged ones. The wounds healed in seconds. The Void formation didn't even slow down. They're adapting, Dr. Hana said from the science station. She had insisted on joining the fleet, studying the enemy. Every weapon we use, they learned to counter it within minutes. The Void reached the human fleet. What happened next was a massacre. Void ships touched human vessels and the hulls began to dissolve. Crews screamed as their ships were consumed around them. Escape pods launched desperately and the Void consumed those too. All ships retreat, Hyun-woo ordered. His voice was calm, but Day One could hear the pain in it. Fall back to defensive line Beta. We can't win this fight. The surviving human ships jumped to faster than light speed, fleeing. Behind them, the Void descended on Proxima 7. Day One watched through long-range sensors as the colony died. The Void didn't bomb it, didn't burn it. They simply consumed it. Buildings, vehicles, people, all broken down and absorbed. In 6 hours, Proxima 7 was gone. The entire planet looked like it had been stripped clean. Even the atmosphere was thinner. Back at the defensive line, Day One sat in his quarters and stared at the wall. 2 million people, gone, and humanity's best weapons had barely slowed the Void down. There was a knock on his door. Lieutenant Ji-won entered. She was young, barely 25, but she was the best pilot in the fleet. Her face was pale but determined. Captain, I've been thinking, she said, about the battle, about how they adapt. What about it? Day One asked tiredly. They adapt to our weapons, but they didn't expect our retreat. Look at the sensor logs. When we fled, there was a 3-second delay before they pursued. 3 seconds where they seemed confused. Day One sat up. They're not used to enemies that run away? No, Ji-won said. I checked the alien records. Every species fought to the last ship. They fought bravely and died bravely. But we ran. We're cowards compared to them, and the Void didn't know what to do with that. Day One immediately called Hyun-woo. The Admiral listened carefully, then brought in his tactical staff. They reviewed the data. Ji-won was right. The Void had paused when humanity retreated. Just for a moment, but it had paused. They calculate based on past patterns. Professor Sang-ho said over the video link from Earth. Every species they fought before followed predictable patterns. Honor, bravery, last stands. But humans? We don't care about fighting fair. We care about surviving. So we use that, Hyun-woo said. We fight like humans have always fought. Hit and run. Guerrilla tactics. Make them chase us. Waste their time and resources. Over the next 2 months, humanity learned to fight the Void. Not in glorious battles. In small vicious strikes. A human ship would appear, fire missiles, and jump away before the Void could respond. Mines were scattered in the Void's path. Ambushes were set and sprung. It wasn't enough to win. But it was enough to survive. The Void was slowed. Not stopped, but slowed. Day One volunteered to lead reconnaissance missions deep into Void-controlled space. It was dangerous, almost suicidal. But someone had to learn more about the enemy. With a small, fast ship and Ji-won as his pilot, he jumped behind Void lines. What they found was horrifying. 3 more human colonies had fallen. The planets were stripped bare. But Daewon noticed something. The void ships were spread out now. Some were pursuing human fleets. Others were guarding consumed worlds. Others were searching for hidden human bases. They're dividing their forces, Jiwon said. They're not used to fighting an enemy on multiple fronts. Dr. Hana analyzed the data. Every civilization they fought before concentrated on major battles. But we're fighting everywhere at once. We're forcing them to spread out. It's still not enough, Daewon said. They're still advancing, still consuming. We're just dying slower. But Hana had found something else. Deep in the alien records was a theory. The void wasn't many separate beings. It was one intelligence spread across thousands of ships, a hive mind. And like all hive minds, it had a central point, a core where the main intelligence resided. If we could hit the core, Hana said, we might be able to disrupt the entire network. That's suicide, Taemin said. He had joined Daewon's ship as chief engineer. The core would be in the most defended location possible. Yes, Daewon agreed. It would be. Back on Earth, Hyunwoo listened to their report. He looked older now. The war was aging him quickly, but his eyes were still sharp. Finding the core is step one, he said, but we need something to use against it. A weapon. Professor Sang-ho had been working on that, based on the alien technology and human quantum theory. He believed he could create a quantum disruption weapon. It would tear apart the Void's network, fragmenting the hive mind into separate, confused pieces. The problem is delivery, Sang-ho said. The weapon has to be activated from inside the Void's network. Someone has to take it there manually. Everyone understood what that meant. Whoever delivered the weapon wouldn't come back. I'll do it, Daewon said immediately. Captain, no, Hana protested. I'm the logical choice, Daewon said calmly. I've been studying the Void longer than anyone. I know how they move, how they think. And I'm old. You're all young. You have futures. I've had my life. Ji-won stepped forward. I'm going to. You'll need the best pilot. No, Daewon said. With respect, Captain, you need me, and you know it. Daewon looked at her young face and saw the same stubborn determination that had kept humanity alive for thousands of years. The same refusal to back down that made humans human. All right, he said. But first we need to find the core. And we need to buy time for Professor Sang-ho to build the weapon. Admiral Hyunwoo nodded. Every ship, every soldier, every person in human space will buy you that time. Whatever it takes. The next month was brutal. The Void pushed harder. Sensing that humanity was planning something, colony after colony fell. The human fleet fought desperate holding actions, trading lives for hours, for days. On Earth, Professor Sang-ho worked without sleep building the weapon. It was small, barely larger than a briefcase. But it contained the sum of all human knowledge about quantum physics. Everything humanity had learned in centuries of science, focused into one devastating device. And in void-controlled space, Daewon searched. He risked his ship again and again, jumping in and out of danger, mapping the Void's network, looking for patterns, looking for the core. Finally, he found it, a massive structure deep in what had once been the Kepler 442 system. Where this had all begun, the Void's core pulsed with terrible energy, coordinating the entire invasion. That's it, Hana whispered. That's the target. Daewon sent the coordinates to Hyunwoo. The Admiral looked at the numbers and knew what they meant. The core was surrounded by thousands of Void ships. Getting there would require every human ship to create a diversion. And even then, the chances of success were almost zero. Almost zero is better than zero, Hyunwoo said. We're doing this. Tell Captain Daewon his mission is approved. Humanity prepared for its final desperate gamble. Everything they had left would go into one massive operation. It would either save humanity or end it. 3 months had passed since the Horizon's Edge returned to Earth. 3 months of panic, fear, and desperate preparation. The news had spread across all human colonies within days. An enemy was coming. An enemy that had killed hundreds of civilizations. An enemy that had never been defeated. Admiral Hyunwoo stood in the command center of Earth's orbital defense station, watching the chaos on the screens below. Ships were being built at 10 times the normal rate. Every shipyard in human space was working at full capacity. But was it enough? Could it ever be enough? The Council is ready for you, Admiral, his aide said quietly. Hyunwoo nodded and walked to the conference room. Inside, leaders from every human colony waited. Their faces showed fear, anger, and determination in equal measure. Counselor Yunji from Mars spoke first. We should shut everything down, she said. Her voice was firm but frightened. All advanced technology, all quantum computers, all artificial intelligence. If we go back to basics, maybe the void won't notice us. And live in caves? Someone else shouted. Give up everything we've built? Better alive in caves than dead in space stations, Yunji shot back. The argument exploded. Half the council wanted to hide. The other half wanted to fight. Voices rose higher and higher until Hyunwoo slammed his hand on the table. Enough, he said quietly. The room fell silent. Professor Sangho has something to show us. An older man stood up, his gray hair messy from too many sleepless nights. Professor Sangho was humanity's leading expert on quantum physics. He had spent the last 3 months studying the alien data. I've analyzed the records from hundreds of dead civilizations, Sangho said, and I found something interesting. Every species followed the same pattern. They developed peacefully, spread slowly through space, built carefully. When the void came, they tried to negotiate first. Then they tried to run. Then they tried to fight using conventional tactics. And then they died. So we're doomed, someone muttered. No, Sangho said sharply. We're different. Humanity's entire history is different. We didn't develop peacefully. We fought constantly. Wars over religion. Wars over resources. Wars over ideas. We nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times. But we survived. We adapted. We learned. He brought up images on the screen. Battle after battle from human history. Ancient wars with swords. Modern wars with nuclear weapons. Humanity's history was written in blood. Every other species evolved in relative peace, Sangho continued. They had competition, yes, but nothing like humans. We are the only species in these records that came from a death world where everything was trying to kill us, where we were trying to kill each other. That shaped us, made us aggressive, made us stubborn, made us survivors. How does that help us? Hunji asked. Because the void has never fought an enemy like us, Hyunwoo said, standing up. It's used to fighting civilizations that think rationally, that calculate odds, that surrender when defeat is certain. But humans don't do that. We fought wars we couldn't win and won them anyway. We faced extinction and refused to die. That's our advantage, Sangho nodded. The void is efficient. It calculates. It predicts. But it's never encountered a species whose primary survival trait is refusing to accept reality. Humanity's greatest strength is our ability to keep fighting when logic says we should quit. The room was quiet for a long moment. Then an old general from the Europa colony spoke. His voice was rough with age and experience. My grandfather fought in the resource wars. Humanity was losing badly. Everyone knew it. The enemy had better weapons, more soldiers, better tactics. But we didn't surrender. We fought dirty. We fought mean. We made them pay for every meter of ground. Eventually, they decided peace was cheaper than victory. Is that what you're suggesting? Exactly, Hyunwoo said. We can't beat the void in a fair fight. So we don't fight fair. We make consuming humanity so expensive, so costly, so painful that the void decides to leave us alone. The void doesn't negotiate, Yunji said. The records are clear. No, Sangho agreed. But it does calculate efficiency. If we make ourselves too expensive to consume, it might move on to easier targets. The vote was close. Many wanted to hide. Many were afraid. But in the end, humanity chose to fight. It was what humans had always done. The preparations began immediately. Admiral Hyunwoo took command of all military forces. He started building the Sentinel Line, a network of early warning stations across the edge of human space. If the void came, humanity would know. Every colony began construction of underground bunkers. Every planet built massive defensive weapons. Generation ships were prepared in secret, filled with genetic samples and human embryos. If humanity died, at least something would survive to try again. Scientists worked on understanding the alien technology. Engineers built new weapons based on the alien data. Soldiers trained for a war unlike any in human history. And the people waited. Families held each other closer. Some prayed to gods old and new. Some partied like the world was ending because it might be. Some worked harder than ever, determined to leave something behind. 6 months after the horizon's edge returned, the first Sentinel station went silent. Just stopped transmitting in the middle of a routine report. Hyunwoo sent ships to investigate. They found nothing. The station was simply gone. Not destroyed, not damaged, just gone as if it had never existed. It started, Hyunwoo said quietly. The void is here. Over the next 2 weeks, 3 more stations disappeared. Always on the edge of human space. Always completely vanished. The void was testing humanity's defenses, probing for weaknesses. Hyunwoo pulled back the sentinel line, consolidating forces. He wouldn't spread humanity's ships too thin. Better to hold strong positions than lose weak ones. Then Sentinel Station Gamma made contact with something. The last transmission was confused and terrified. Sensors showing impossible readings. Something vast approaching. Something wrong. Get everyone out of there, Hyunwoo ordered. But there wasn't time. Station Gamma's final transmission showed something on the screens. Not a ship. Not exactly. It was more like a cloud. A vast, dark cloud that moved with terrible purpose. It surrounded the station like a living thing. The sensors showed the station's hull beginning to dissolve. Not burn, not break. Dissolve as if it was being eaten. The screaming stopped after 30 seconds. Station Gamma was gone. Hyunwoo watched the recording a dozen times. His staff watched it. Scientists watched it. Everyone searched for weaknesses, for patterns, for anything that might help. It's like it's consuming matter itself, one scientist said, breaking it down at the molecular level and absorbing it. Can we stop it? Hyunwoo asked. I don't know. Nothing in the alien record shows a successful defense. Hyunwoo turned to look at Earth through the command center's windows. His home, 7 billion people, thousands of years of history, all of it about to face something that had killed hundreds of civilizations. But humanity was stubborn. Humanity was mean. Humanity had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and its own stupidity. Whatever was coming, humanity would face it the only way it knew how, with teeth bared and fists raised, refusing to go quietly into the dark. Send a message to all colonies, Hyunwoo ordered. Tell them the void is here. Tell them to prepare for contact. And tell them this, we will not surrender. We will not run. We will fight, and if we die, we'll make them remember the cost of killing humanity. The message went out across human space. Billions of people received it. Some cried. Some screamed. Some prayed, but most prepared to fight. The consuming void had come for humanity. Now it would learn why Earth's children had survived so long in a universe that seemed designed to kill them. 1 year had passed since the void arrived. Humanity had lost 12 colonies. Hundreds of millions were dead. The survivors had retreated to fortified positions around the core worlds, Earth, Mars, Europa, Titan. These were the last strongholds. If they fell, humanity was finished. General Yujin walked through the tunnels beneath Mars City. Thousands of civilians had moved underground when the void began its final push. They lived in cramped bunkers now, rationing food and water, waiting for news from the surface. Children who had never known peace played in corridors lit by emergency lights. How are the defensive positions? Yujin asked her aide. As ready as they can be, General. Every weapon we have left is pointed at the sky. If the void comes here, we'll give them a fight. Yujin nodded. She was tired, so tired. Her hair had gone gray in the past year. She barely slept anymore, but she couldn't stop. Wouldn't stop. Too many people depended on her. On the surface, the defensive batteries stood ready. Massive railguns, energy cannons, missile silos. Everything humanity had built in a year of desperate preparation. It still wouldn't be enough. The void had superior numbers and technology. But Yujin would make them pay for every meter of Martian soil. Back on Earth, Admiral Hyunwoo coordinated the defense of humanity's homeworld. Ships orbited in tight formations. Satellites bristled with weapons. The moon had been converted into a fortress. If the void wanted Earth, they would have to go through everything humanity had left. But the real surprise was happening on the occupied worlds. The planets the void had already conquered. Humanity had evacuated most civilians, yes, but not everyone had left. Some people had stayed behind. Volunteers, resistance fighters, stubborn humans who refused to abandon their homes. Seung-ho was one of them. He had lived on Colony Titan 3 all his life. When the evacuation order came, he and 2,000 others had hidden in the mountains. They watched the void consume their cities, watched their world die, and then they began to fight back. The void had never encountered guerrilla warfare before. Every species they had fought either evacuated completely or died defending their cities. But humans hid in forests and mountains. They struck at night. They sabotaged equipment. They made the occupation costly. Sung Ho's group hit a void resource facility at midnight. They used homemade explosives and stolen weapons. The facility was guarding processed materials, metals, and minerals extracted from the planet's crust. The humans destroyed 6 months of resource collection in one night. The Void had to respond. They diverted ships from the front lines to hunt the resistance fighters. More ships to guard facilities. More resources spent controlling populations instead of advancing. It was a small thing, but small things added up. On 17 different occupied worlds, resistance groups were doing the same thing. Thousands of humans making millions of small attacks. Each one alone was meaningless, but together they were slowing the Void down, forcing it to fight a kind of war it had never fought before. Admiral Hyunwoo saw the pattern in his reports. The Void's advance had slowed. Not stopped, but slowed. They were being forced to leave ships behind to control occupied territory. Their fleet was becoming spread out, less concentrated. "It's working," he said to his staff. "Not enough to win, but enough to give Captain Daewon his chance." Professor Sang-ho had completed the quantum disruption weapon. It sat in a secure facility on Earth, small and innocent-looking. But it contained the power to shatter the Void's hive mind, if it worked. If Daewon could deliver it, if humanity could survive long enough. "We need a final push," Hyunwoo said. "Something to draw the Void's attention completely. Give Daewon a clear path to the core." His tactical officer understood immediately. "You mean Operation Thunderchild?" The counteroffensive Operation Thunderchild was insane. It called for every remaining human warship to attack the Void's front lines simultaneously. Every ship, every weapon. One massive assault designed to look like humanity's last desperate attempt to turn the tide. It would be a suicide mission for most of the fleet. The Void would respond with overwhelming force. Thousands of human soldiers would die, but it would create the distraction Daewon needed. Hyunwoo sent the orders. Within hours, the human fleet began moving. Ships that had been defending colonies. Ships that had been hiding in asteroid fields. Ships that were barely functional. All of them converging on the Helios Nebula, where the Void's main fleet was positioned. The fleet captains knew what they were being asked to do. Most of them would not survive. They sent messages home to their families. They recorded final words. Some prayed. Some just sat quietly, preparing for what was coming. General Yu-jin wished she could be with them. Fighting in space seemed cleaner somehow than waiting on the ground. But her job was to hold the core worlds if Operation Thunderchild failed. To buy time for the civilian evacuation ships being prepared in secret. To make the Void's victory as painful as possible, the human fleet entered the Helios Nebula in attack formation. 500 ships against 3,000 Void vessels. The odds were terrible. But humans had faced terrible odds before. "All ships, this is Admiral Hyunwoo." The command channel crackled. "In a few minutes we're going to do something humans do better than any species in the galaxy. We're going to punch way above our weight class. We're going to make them hurt, and we're going to buy our people the time they need. It has been an honor serving with you. Now let's remind the Void why you don't pick fights with humans." The battle began. Human ships dove into the Void formation, firing everything they had. Missiles, energy weapons, even ramming attacks when the ammunition ran out. The space around Helios Nebula lit up like a star. The Void responded exactly as predicted. They pulled ships from across their territory to reinforce the battle. They committed everything to crushing this human attack. It was their nature. When threatened, they overwhelmed with force, which meant ships were leaving the occupied worlds. Ships were pulling back from the core worlds, and most importantly, ships were leaving the approach to the Void's core. Daewon watched the battle reports from his small stealth ship. Ji-won sat at the pilot controls, her hands steady despite the fear in her eyes. Dr. Hana monitored the Void's network activity. Taemin triple-checked the weapon systems. "The path is opening," Hana said. "The core's defenses are thinning. It's now or never." "Take us in," Daewon ordered. The stealth ship slipped through the chaos. While thousands died in the Helios Nebula, Daewon's tiny vessel moved toward the Void's heart. They used every trick, hiding in asteroid fields, matching velocity with Void debris, flying through nebula gas that scattered sensors. They were nearly there when a Void patrol spotted them. 3 Void ships changed course to intercept. Ji-won pushed the engines to maximum, but the Void ships were faster. "We're not going to make it," Taemin said, watching the distance close. "Yes, we are," Daewon said calmly. He opened a channel to Admiral Hyunwoo. "Admiral, we need help at our position." Anything you can spare? Nothing to spare, Captain. Everyone's committed to the battle. Understood, Day One said. He looked at his crew. Then we fight our way through. It shouldn't have worked. 3 void ships against 1 small human vessel. But Ji-Wan was the best pilot in the fleet. She flew like the ship was part of her body, dodging, weaving, making the void ships get in each other's way. Taemin fired their weapons. They weren't meant for combat, but he made every shot count. 1 void ship took damage and fell back. The other 2 pressed harder. Almost there, Hana said. The core is just ahead. One of the void ships got a clean shot. It hit their engine. Alarm screamed. The ship shuddered. We're losing power, Taemin reported. We have enough, Ji-Wan said through gritted teeth. We'll make it, she was right. With the last of their power, the stealth ship reached the void's core. The massive structure loomed before them, pulsing with energy. This was the mind of the enemy, the center of everything. Behind them, the 2 void ships closed in for the kill. Ahead, the core's defenses were activating. They were trapped. Well, Day One said quietly. We knew it was one way. Dr. Hana, prepare the weapon. Hana's hands shook as she activated the quantum disruption device. It needs to be inside the core's network. Someone has to physically connect it. I know, Day One said. He had always known. He picked up the weapon. Ji-Wan, get as close as you can. Then get everyone to the escape pod. Captain, Ji-Wan started to protest. That's an order, Lieutenant. Get them out. Let the void chase the pod. Give me time. There were tears in Ji-Wan's eyes, but she nodded. She brought the ship within meters of the core's surface. Daewon put on his spacesuit and entered the airlock. It's been an honor, he said. Then he stepped into space. Captain Daewon stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, staring at the view screen with tired eyes. He had been searching for 30 years. 30 long years of jumping from star to star, scanning planets, examining asteroid fields, and finding nothing. The galaxy was empty, dead silent. Captain, we're approaching the Kepler 442 system, said Taemin from the engineering station. The young man looked as tired as Daewon felt. Should I prepare the standard survey procedures? Daewon nodded slowly. Another system. Another disappointment waiting to happen. Humanity had spread across 17 star systems now. 32 colonies on different worlds. Billions of people living among the stars. But they were alone. Always alone. Dr. Hana walked onto the bridge carrying her datapad. Her eyes still held that spark of hope that Daewon had lost years ago. The signal is getting stronger, she said. It's definitely artificial. Something made it. Probably just another old probe from the colony ships, Taemin muttered. We found dozens of those. No, Hana insisted. The frequency is wrong. The pattern is wrong. This isn't human technology. Daewon felt something stir in his chest. Hope. Dangerous, painful hope. He had felt it so many times before, and every time it had crushed him. Take us in slowly, he ordered. Full scans on everything. The horizon's edge moved deeper into the system. Past gas giants and ice worlds, past debris fields and dead moons. The signal grew stronger with every kilometer. Hana's hands shook as she worked her console. Even Taemin leaned forward, his skepticism fading. There, Hana whispered. Oh my God, there. On the view screen, something appeared. A ship, but not a human ship. Its design was completely alien. Strange curves and angles that made no sense to human eyes. The hull was dark, pitted with age and damage. It drifted silently through space like a ghost. How long has it been here? Daewon asked. Hana ran her scans. Her face went pale. Thousands of years. Maybe tens of thousands. The metal is degraded. The systems are dead. But Captain, this proves it. We're not alone. We were never alone. We're never alone. Taemin repeated quietly. Past tense. They're gone now. Daewon ordered the ship closer. They matched velocity with the alien vessel and prepared a boarding team. Daewon insisted on going himself. After 30 years of searching, he would be the first human to set foot on an alien ship. He had earned that right. The airlock connected with a grinding sound. The alien hull was so old that it crumbled slightly under the docking clamps. Daewon, Hana, and 2 security officers entered carefully. Their suit lights cut through the darkness inside. The interior was strange. The corridors were too wide and too low. The angles were wrong. Everything spoke of minds that thought differently than humans. They found frozen atmosphere crystals on the walls, equipment that made no sense, symbols they couldn't read. They breathed oxygen, Hana said, checking her instruments. The atmosphere was similar to Earth's. We could have talked to them. Could have been friends. They moved deeper into the ship. In what might have been the bridge, they found the first body. The alien was tall and thin, with 4 arms and an elongated head. It had died at its station, hands still on the controls. Day-One felt a strange sadness looking at it. This creature had been someone. Had lived, worked, hoped, and died alone in the dark. "Captain, over here," one of the security officers called. "There's something still active." A single console still glowed with faint light. Some kind of emergency power had kept it running for thousands of years. The screen showed symbols and patterns. Hana immediately began recording everything. "It's a star chart," she said excitedly. "Look at the patterns. Those are stars. These symbols might be colonies or civilizations." But as they studied the chart, excitement turned to horror. There were hundreds of markers, hundreds of different symbols that probably represented different alien species, different civilizations, and every single one was marked with the same symbol. A crossed-out circle. "They're all dead," Taewin whispered. "Every one of them." Hana worked frantically, downloading everything from the console. Files began transferring, images, data, mathematical formulas. And then they found the message. It was in pure mathematics, a universal language that any spacefaring species would understand. Hana's translation program began working through it. The message was simple and terrible. There was something in the galaxy, something that hunted civilizations. The aliens who left this message called it the consuming void. It waited until species reached a certain level of technology, and then it came. It destroyed everything, consumed entire worlds, left nothing behind. Every civilization on the star chart had been killed by the consuming void. Every single one. Hundreds of species across thousands of years. The pattern was clear and horrible. When civilizations became advanced enough to spread through space, the void noticed them. And then they died. The aliens who left this ship had been searching desperately for help. They had jumped from system to system looking for someone who could fight the void, looking for allies, looking for hope. They had found nothing, only empty space and dead worlds. And then the void had found them too. The final part of the message made Daewon's blood run cold. The void came when civilizations crossed a certain threshold of technology: quantum computing, faster than light travel, advanced artificial intelligence. When all three existed together, the void noticed. The void came. Humanity had developed quantum computers 20 years ago, faster than light travel 30 years ago. And just last year, Earth had announced the successful creation of true artificial intelligence. Humanity had crossed the threshold. "We need to get this information back to Earth," Daewon said. His voice was steady, but his hands shook. "Right now. Maximum speed." They copied everything from the alien computer and rushed back to their ship. As the horizon's edge turned toward home, Daewon stood on the bridge and looked at the dead alien vessel growing smaller behind them. Humanity had spent centuries crying out to the cosmos, sending radio signals into space, asking if anyone was out there, begging not to be alone in the universe, but the galaxy had stayed silent. Now Daewon understood why. The galaxy was silent because everyone who had spoken up was dead, and the thing that killed them was coming for humanity next. "How long do we have?" Taemin asked quietly. Daewon looked at the data. The patterns were clear. After crossing the threshold, most civilizations lasted between 6 months and 2 years before the void found them. "Not long," Daewon said. "Not long at all." The horizon's edge jumped to faster than light speed, racing toward Earth with the worst news in human history. Humanity was not alone in the universe, but everyone else who had existed was dead. And soon, something was coming to kill humanity too. The question was simple and terrible. What could humanity do that hundreds of other civilizations could not?